The first rays of sunlight cast a soft, golden glow over the modest brick structure that had stood at the edge of Brookstone for nearly 5 decades. The steel garage door groaned as it rolled open, echoing the quiet welcome of another workday. Inside, Dean Walker, a weathered mechanic with silver-threaded hair and eyes that had seen both sorrow and salvation, wiped his hands on a faded red rag and surveyed his sanctuary. His garage was more than a workplace. It was a living museum of mechanical triumphs, heartache, and endurance. The concrete floor was stained with stories, and every tool on the wall had a history. In the far corner, a rusted red toolbox bore the name Walter Walker in hand-painted letters, a relic passed down from his father. It sat beside a yellowed photograph of Dean's late daughter, Emily, whose laughter once danced between the walls, now soaked in the scent of oil and steel. Dean's life had been quiet since Emily passed. He had poured himself into engines, transmissions, suspensions, anything to keep his hands busy and his heart numb. That morning, as he prepared for Mrs. Alvarez's ancient Ford to arrive for its monthly tune-up, something across the street caught his eye. A young girl in a wheelchair had settled under the shadow of a wide oak, her gaze locked on the neighborhood kids playing basketball in the lot beside the garage. She was no older than 11 or 12, her legs wrapped in metal braces that looked both outdated and unforgiving. Her hands clenched the arms of her wheelchair, eyes filled with a yearning that Dean knew too well. He watched her for several minutes, the memory of Emily flooding back her bald head under a knit cap, her spirit never yielding even as the cancer took her strength. That look of wanting to belong, to move freely again, it was all too familiar. Dean wiped his hands again and stepped outside. The girl noticed his approach and offered a timid smile. "Hey there," Dean said, squatting down to her level. "Name's Dean. I see you out here most days." "I'm Lily," she replied softly. "I like watching them play. I used to play too. Before." Her fingers tapped her braces, clunky and ill-fitted. Dean's mechanic's eyes scanned them. The craftsmanship was crude, the articulation inefficient. They weren't helping her. They were holding her back. He hesitated. "Do you miss playing?" Her answer came with a nod, so small it almost disappeared. "I dream about running sometimes. In my sleep, I'm fast." Dean glanced back at his garage, then at Lily. Maybe it's time we made that dream real. That night, after closing the shop, Dean pulled out every technical manual he could find from the town library. He read about orthotic supports, hydraulic limb assistance, biomechanics. He didn't have a medical degree, but he understood machines' pressure points, weight distribution, rotational balance. And Lily, she didn't need miracles. She needed someone who believed that possibility was worth building. Days turned into weeks. Every evening, Dean sat under the glow of his desk lamp, sketching crude diagrams that evolved with each failure. The first prototypes were disasters, too heavy, too rigid, too awkward. But each failure taught him something new. Lily began visiting more often. She will enter the garage and perch on an office chair Dean rigged up just for her. "What's that do?" she'd ask, pointing to joints, valves, or hydraulic lines. Her questions got sharper, more insightful. "So, it's like how a shock absorber works in reverse," she said once, watching him adjust a piece of copper tubing. "Exactly," Dean smiled, amazed. "You've got the mind of an engineer." "Maybe I'll be one," she said, without hesitation. Her mother, Angela, a nurse at the local hospital, eventually visited the garage too. Her shift-worn scrubs and tired eyes told stories Dean understood without asking. "Thank you," she said quietly, watching Lily smile for the first time in months. She hasn't talked about the future in years. Not until now. Dean kept going. He crafted a pair of lightweight prosthetic legs using titanium struts from a junked motorcycle, sealed bearings from a salvaged race car, and shaped aluminum heat stored for years with no clear purpose. Every element was fine-tuned for Lily's frame. He tested everything himself, joints on pressure rigs, hydraulic responses, brace weights. The day came when he fitted them on her. Dr. Kim, a local physician who had followed the project out of curiosity, supervised the medical side. Angela stood nearby, hands clasped. Lily looked at the sleek metal extensions now attached to her legs, her breath shaky. "You ready?" Dean asked. "I've been ready my whole life." With trembling arms, she gripped the parallel bars Dean had installed in the garage. Her first step was wobbly, the second more stable. By the fourth, she was walking. By the eighth, she was crying, and so was everyone else. Outside, neighbors gathered to witness what was happening. They watched Lily take her first unassisted steps, then another, and then she let go of the bars and walked toward her mother. The moment shattered the silence of the town like a burst of music. Dean thought it was the culmination of everything. But the next morning, a black SUV rolled to a stop outside his garage. A man in a tailored suit stepped out and introduced himself as Malcolm Pierce, CEO of Horizon Biodynamics, a global medical tech firm. "We've been watching the video of Lily," he said, pulling up footage on his tablet that had already gone viral. "Your design, these prosthetics are extraordinary and cost-effective." Dean blinked. "I just wanted to help a little girl walk again. And in doing so, you may have changed the future of pediatric prosthetics," Malcolm said. "We'd like to work with you. Partner, not buy out. You keep creative control. We bring infrastructure, production, and distribution." Dean stood silent, overwhelmed. Sarah's hand slipped into his, steadying him. "There's more," Malcolm added. "We'd like to fund a foundation in your daughter's name. The Emily Walker Foundation for children who need but can't afford mobility support." Dean swallowed hard. "I have conditions," he said. "The factory stays here. In Brookstone. This town gave me everything. And Dr. Kim, Angela Theory part of the team." Malcolm smiled. "Already arranged. We've acquired the old textile plant. Renovation begins next week." Within months, Brookstone buzzed with life again. The old factory turned innovation hub, blending Dean's grassroots genius with Horizon's resources. Lily, now walking with ease, helped test and improve each new model. Angela joined as Director of Patient Outreach. Dr. Kim led the biomechanics department, and Dean remained the soul of it all. The Emily Walker Foundation expanded globally. Thousands of children across continents walked, ran, danced on the limbs Dean had dreamed up in a garage smelling of grease and gasoline. A wall inside the new headquarters displayed photos. Children in Africa playing soccer, girls in India dancing in saris, boys in Brazil racing each other barefoot on titanium legs. But it wasn't just limbs. Dean's work helped reduce phantom limb pain by 60%, an accidental breakthrough that drew attention from neuroscientists and pain specialists worldwide. Even when legal threats came corporations trying to crush the upstart Dean stood firm. The town rallied behind him. Families sent in testimonials. News stations covered the story. Lily, now 15, stood before the media and said, "This isn't about business. This is about giving someone their future back." Eventually, Horizon and Dean's team won not only in court, but in the court of public opinion. What began with one man trying to help one child turned into a movement. 10 years later, the old garage became a museum. On its wall hung Dean's first diagram, Emily's photo, and a plaque that read, "Every life matters. Every step counts." And every day, children ran across playgrounds, across oceans, across borders carrying Dean Walker's legacy with them.